Joined now in studio by Arpan Basu from LNH.com and Sean Gordon from the Globe and Mail. And of course, guys, we're talking about the Canadiens. We're more than a third into the season, and even two critics like you have to be happy with the Canadiens right now, right?
No.
I knew it.
No. Kind of skeptical. I mean, I don't know. Like they've been leafing it lately. They've been leafing it. They've been playing a little bit.
They haven't been scoring many goals.
Well, and they've kind of not really been convincing in terms of smoking teams that they should smoke. And they had maybe the luckiest win, maybe of the last 4 or 5 years against LA.
Against the Kings?
Yeah, that was pretty sketchy. And they're not a bad team. They're a good team. They still have flaws, but I'm going to need the sample needs to get a little bit bigger for me to get convinced.
I mean, the one thing that I think should be is reason for optimism for the Canadiens and Canadiens fans by extension is that, yes, they have these flaws. They're not a very strong possession team. They spend a lot of time in their own end. But when you come to the playoffs, they have not only the great equalizer, but the great kind of deal breaker in Carey Price. And they have one of the prime assets in the NHL in Carey Price. That game against LA was the most extreme example of it, where he literally stole the game by himself. And when you have that, there's a certain way that the team plays in front of a guy like that that does sometimes lend itself to kind of, falling into a shell and letting him take care of things. But in the playoffs, it's an asset that very few teams in the league have, and the Canadiens are one of those teams.
It definitely gives the team a lot of confidence, right? Someone else playing with a lot of confidence right now, Alex Galchenyuk. He's playing in the center of that top line. He's looking very good. What's your impression of him?
I think they need to stick with it, first of all. And I think that this is not something that comes easily to this coaching staff. They need to figure out a way to bite their tongues, go to the happy place, take deep happy breaths, whatever it is they need to do, and let this guy do his thing for 10 games. And I think you saw some flashes in the early bit of him doing it. I mean, look, this is a guy who he looks the part. And when he becomes that guy, that number one center, and I think that there's an argument to be made that he already has, but knowing this team, probably there will be some dips and valleys and things you might have to do something differently. To win, you need top 5 goalie, top 5 defenseman, top 5 center, and some good spare parts. They have the goalie, they have the defenseman. Is this the center?
Well, the one thing I'll say about the coaching staff is the game against Los Angeles, they did not hide him at all. Yeah. He went right up against the Kopitar line the whole night. Had some issues, was hemmed in his own a little bit, but really overall his defensive play has not been bad. And that's the main concern for the coaching staff. So that's encouraging. And also, I mean, you watch him play, and I think back to an interview I did with Brendan Gallagher on the first day of training camp, and when this was all the rage, will he play center or not? And he said something really interesting, is that a guy like Galchenyuk, he's so shifty that as a defenseman, if you don't know if he's going to the right or the left, it's a real game changer, because they just are totally off balance, and they're on their heels, and they're trying to wait to react. Whereas when he's on the wing, there's pretty much 2 avenues he can take, right, but they're easy to kind of ward off. You can ride him into the boards and just make sure he doesn't go middle on you. Whereas now he has so many options available to him that defensemen are a little flustered when he comes down.
And he loves the big stage. He loves the big occasion.
Loves to score. I think he's got to work on his goal celebrations a little bit, but he does love to score.
Too toned down. He's got to
go for it a little bit more, right? Let me ask you this though: Canadians, are obviously really excited about Galchenyuk right now, right? But NHL teams have a tendency to pick up on players and learn how to play against players like that. You said that you could see like there could be a problem there, right? When they figure him out.
Well, I mean, and when we need to see what he can do night after night against the other team's best line and the other team's best defenseman. And I don't think it's a question of talent. I think it's a question of seasoning, and it's a question of learning what works in every circumstance and what doesn't. And I think that you're right. He's got a much better handle on the defensive side of things. His faceoffs have miraculously improving. Maybe he owes like a nice dinner exactly, right, to Manny Malhotra. And so it's one of those things where I think this is why I think you need to give it a try for a while to really get a handle on what you've got here.
But Michel Therrien said something interesting after the Carolina game, is that yes, teams are going to adjust to him, but he's adjusting to teams. True. He's learning how to play in the NHL. He's in his 3rd season, and the great quote was, yes, he's 20, but I see him more as a 3rd-year NHL player, and that's how he's playing right now. He's learned the opposition, and he's learned what it takes to compete at this level.
And the other thing that's interesting in the hat trick for the Carolina game, he said, well, yeah, I've had to wait 2.5 years for my first multi-goal game, which is like, okay, so confidence is not an issue, all right, that's fine, right? And I mean, this is a guy who I think is going to learn and needs to do it and will do it.
Okay, well, we're going to check out the Canadiens on Saturday. Canadiens are taking on the visiting Senators in a game that you can see on City at 7 p.m. The Canadiens' last game before the Christmas break is next Tuesday against the Islanders in New York. Puck drop there is at 7 p.m. on Sportsnet East. All right, coming up next, we meet figure skater Elizabeth Hatsis. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next year.
You're most welcome.